Quiet on the set, please.
Camera speed.
Sound production, take one.
And action!
Welcome to From Beneath the Hollywood Sign. If you love old movies, Hollywood history, or the golden age of filmmaking, you've come to the right place. This is the podcast that talks about amazing stories of Tinseltown from another era. Hear fascinating conversations with writer-producer Steve Cubine, who quite literally lives just beneath the Hollywood sign, and actress-writer Nan McNamara. Now your hosts, Steve and Nan.
Well, welcome everyone to From Beneath the Hollywood Sign podcast. Steve, 100 episodes.
Wow, 100 episodes. Can you believe it?
No, I can't. And I just have to say that I did look up the symbol for 100, but nobody's married that long. So the closest I could come was a 75th anniversary, which is gold and diamonds.
Ooh, nice.
So where are they?
Yikes.
Well, maybe a gold bar, right? Something like that.
Key to Fort Knox.
Yeah. But what's really special, we don't need gifts because we have an incredibly special guest today, and that would be Mr. Dave Karger.
Yes. And Dave Karger, a little bit in case you don't know, he's come a long way from growing up in the Hudson Valley of New York. After graduating from Duke University, where he was an English major, he secured an internship at Entertainment Weekly, where he worked his way up to senior writer and also awards correspondent. And this was over the course of a 17-year career at Entertainment Weekly, which is quite impressive. Very cool. He has also hosted the Academy Award red carpet for ABC, and he was selected as the Film Academy's official Oscar greeter. Very cool. He's also been the Oscar expert for the Today Show for 2 decades, and he's worked for Fandango before utilizing his extensive knowledge and passion for classics to become one of the 5 hosts for Turner Classic Movies. In 2015, Dave received the Publicists Guild's Press Award for Outstanding Entertainment Journalist. And today he's here to talk about his background, his career, and mostly his incredible book, 50 Oscar Nights, Iconic Stars and Filmmakers on Their Career-Defining Wins. So welcome, Dave.
Welcome, Dave.
Thank you, Steve. Thank you, Nan. It's great to meet you. You all have been so kind to TCM. I know how passionate you are about all the things that we are as well. So it's a pleasure to meet you, and I'm happy to be here for this very special 100th episode. So congratulations to you.
Well, thank you. And our listeners are going to be so thrilled because you're so beloved. You really are the ambassador now of classic movies. The torch has been passed on to you, and it's wonderful.
Amen.
All 5 of us love that. We love that we're carrying it on, and the channel only exists and thrives because of the amazing viewers and fans that we have, and we know it.
Well, we love to hear everybody's origin story, Dave, with classic cinema. And I know you describe yourself as a child of the 80s. So tell us everything about how classic cinema became something that you fell in love with. How did it happen?
Well, I was born in 1973. So when I say that I'm a child of the 80s, I wasn't born in the 80s, but I came of age. And because of that, well, I was mostly watching MTV, truth be told. But then once our family got HBO, I was watching a lot of movies at home. And the movies that I really grew up on, some of which have aged better than others, are the John Hughes films, The Breakfast Club, 16.
Oh, yes,
sure.
Yes.
Ferris Bueller's Day Off, all of that. And then I also started watching a lot of kind of more grown-up movies like Children of a Lesser God or Breathless, the remake with Richard Gere, or Tootsie, or Gallipoli. Those are movies that I remember watching a lot as a kid. But then when I went to Duke, I was an English and psychology major, but I took as many film classes as existed at a liberal arts school like Duke University. And I took an intro to film class, and then I took a film class called Hollywood Film Music. And it was both of those classes that I really started watching and discovering a lot of the classic films. And kind of the gateway film for me, if you will, was Laura, out of Karger's film. And that was the one that really hooked me. And it's funny because I remember watching that with our film class. and the credits came on and it said, starring Dana Andrews and Gene Tierney. And I'm watching this movie and I'm thinking to myself, wow, Gene Tierney, he's such a handsome guy. And Dana Andrews, she's beautiful. Found out later I was getting those two confused thanks to their atypical names. But that was the gateway film. And then we watched Seven Chances and movies, Citizen Kane, of course. And then in the film music class, I wrote a whole big term paper on the waterfront and Leonard Bernstein
Oh, wow.
in that. And I got an A+ on my term paper.
I bet you did.
We'd expect nothing less. So who are some of the stars that resonate with you, in your formative years of becoming a movie fan? Who'd you love?
I mean, Dustin Hoffman probably was one of the early ones, just because I was watching movies like Tootsie and Rain Man in the 1980s. And then, of course, it's got to be Molly Ringwald. I mean, she was the original, right? And then the other John Hughes people like Eric Stoltz and Matthew Broderick and people like that. And then the other ones that I've really kind of connected to, Barbara Stanwyck is a huge favorite of all of us at TCM, and I'm Stella Dallas particularly. I'm a big sucker for the sappier films.
Me too.
Cary Grant is a huge favorite of mine, obviously. I mean, Gary Cooper, William Holden, those are the ones that I love. And then the great thing about TCM, which I'm sure we'll talk about, is the fact that we get to interact with a lot of these stars, particularly in later years. And, I got to interview Cicely Tyson for an hour on the TCM cruise, or Mitzi Gaynor for an hour, or Piper Laurie at the TCM festival. And it's just been, that to me is one of the greatest joys of this job, is to have these experiences and to show these stars from decades ago that they are still so beloved by so many people, and have them tell their stories as often as possible in front of our passionate fans and viewers.
Yeah.
And just to kind of add to that a little bit, and listeners will know this, but my fairy godmother, and one of the reasons I came to Los Angeles was because of Ann Rutherford.
Oh, wow.
And I know that Anne used to talk about how thrilling it was to be rediscovered, and she always attributed it to TCM. And I love that aspect of bringing these people back into the forefront and introducing them to a new generation. That's so cool what you guys do.
It is. And also there's like intricacies with it too. So Mitzi Gaynor, for example, who was someone I did get to know quite well in the later years of her life, she's not someone whose movies show a lot on TCM, because a lot of them are 20th Century Fox, and that's a little bit tougher for us to show some of those films for licensing reasons.
Okay.
The fact that we were then able to have her on the cruise and show some of the movies that we can't necessarily show on the channel because it's too difficult, that was really exciting. So it's interesting, because there are certain stars who pop up more on TCM because they were Warner Brothers stars or other studios, right? But that's the great equalizer of things like our festival and our cruise, is that the legalities of it are a little bit different and we can show different things. But Mitzi, she was just so special. I'm so sad that she's gone, and she was so fun. She really let me have it on the stage.
Oh, she was a firecracker.
Well, Dave, prior to TCM, we know you spent 17 years at Entertainment Weekly. Can you talk about how that time there as a journalist prepared you for the work that you now do at TCM?
I mean, how lucky am I that my first job out of college, so I started as an intern when I was still in college at Entertainment Weekly, and then 2 months after I graduated from Duke, I got hired as an assistant, and I was working for this amazing guy who you two will probably know because of your knowledge about this world, a guy named Mark Harris. And Mark wrote the book Five Came Back. He wrote Revolution. He wrote the Mike Nichols biography. He is a brilliant. He's married to Tony Kushner. He's just a great guy, and he hired me as his assistant. So my first job was answering the phone at the desk of this brilliant man who was the movies editor at the time of Entertainment Weekly. And as you said in that very kind intro, I did work my way up over this 17-year period to a point where I ended up writing 50 cover stories for the magazine. I got to travel the world. I wrote 5 cover stories on George Clooney in the space of like 5 or 6 years, because he was such a popular guy in our magazine. But I got to interview Angelina Jolie in the south of France, Kate Winslet and Johnny Depp for Finding Neverland in London, Elton John in Las Vegas. I mean, I got to go all over the world and spend really great quality time with everybody. I mean, you name it, the star from the 90s and early 2000s, I ended up, interviewing them and spending a lot of time with them, particularly as you mentioned at the beginning, the ones that were kind of in the Oscar conversation, because very
Yeah.
specifically, I started writing almost specifically about Oscar movies, the Academy Awards in general, doing a lot of the predictions, covering the Oscars, going to the ceremony. So people like Hilary Swank, Halle Berry, or Julianne Moore, or Liam Neeson, those were people that I got to spend a lot of time with, people who were always finding themselves kind of in the Academy Awards conversation. And I
Wow.
feel so lucky. And now the crazy thing that's happening now that I'm 52 years old is that movies that I covered as a young journalist are now beginning to pop TCM as classic.
Yes.
I know. Isn't that sad? I mean, it's great, but it's also kind of sad.
I know. Pretty Woman's now a classic.
I know, and that's a conversation that I know are some of our viewers, more of our purist viewers, they don't like the fact that movies that are from my lifetime or our lifetimes are considered classics. I look at it like the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, where every year there's a new class of
Yeah.
Yeah.
that are eligible. I think anything 35 years or older is a classic. I just think that's a good kind of number to put it at.
Yeah.
So I do think things from 1980s can and should be considered classics. Otherwise, the classics are never going to evolve.
Is absolutely.
right.
Yeah. We'll run out of classics.
Yeah.
Well, Dave, one of the great joys of my life was becoming friends with Bob Osborne in the 90s. Bob and I met through some mutual friends, and we became really good friends. And I just loved him. As you know, he was just the best. And, you actually came on with Bob, I think it was 2007, where you introduced Best Picture Oscar winners. What was that experience like? And did Bob give you any good words of advice?
It was unforgettable, Steve. So I was the Oscars writer at Entertainment Weekly at the time, and they invited me down to co-host this Best Picture Winners Marathon with Robert Osborne. I was so excited. I was a little bit nervous because he's Robert Osborne.
Exactly.
Not have been more friendly, welcoming, a little
Yes.
gossipy, which was super fun.
Oh, he's such a gossip.
But you don't always get that sense when you're watching
Yes.
like intros and things, but he was super fun. And you know what? I found out later that he was very complimentary of me after we had worked together for that day, and basically told the producers, like, if anything happens to me, like, you know who you should call. And what ended up happening was in 2016, when he became ill and was unable to film, I've been told that he gave the blessing for them to call me and bring me down as a fill-in guest host. And the hope and the expectation amongst everybody was that he was going to come back.
Sure.
Yeah.
And people would even ask me, like, when I started guest hosting, well, Robert Osborne's coming back, right? And I said, yes, he is. He's just taking a break. He's not feeling great. And unfortunately, he wasn't able to come back. And he did pass in 2017. And then and I guest hosted a little bit more in 2017. And then it was in 2018 that Alicia Malone and I were brought on as official hosts. So any specific advice he gave me, I can't remember any, but just to be in his presence and see how he operated and handled himself. It sounds like lip service, but it's the truth. All five of us feel like we're trying to channel him. We're not trying to be him. No one will ever be him. But we're all trying to carry on the unparalleled level of professionalism and passion and integrity that he brought to the job. And hopefully the five of us combined can try to reach that level.
You all do it beautifully. Yeah, he would be very proud, I'm sure.
And we love each other. We have so much fun together, the five of us, even though we're very different. It's so much fun. We don't get to be together that often on the cruise and the festival, where I know you guys have been. And usually they'll have us hosting together, like on New Year's Eve, or they'll have two of us doing something. And that's a great joy.
Yeah.
Well, you sort of touched on this question, Dave, in terms of your audition process as the actress here. I always like to know about, what was your audition like? How did it go? Was there anything more that passed before getting hired at TCM? Did you have to kind of pass a test of TCM classic cinema questions?
Basically, kind of, yes. So here's what happened. I'm going to give you the brief version. So TCM, I think in 2016 or 17, they were launching a streaming service called Filmstruck. And it ended up not lasting that long, but it was in conjunction with the Criterion Collection. And they were looking for hosts for that. And so Alicia Malone and I assume some other people, I don't know who, were brought down, and Alicia and I actually friends already. We were like, oh, we got this audition. When are you going? Oh, when are you going? And we went down on the same day.
Oh, wow.
The same day to be hosts of Filmstruck. And we both did the audition. And I remember we were auditioned by a TCM producer named Scott McGee, who maybe you guys even know from your time with the film festival. He wrote a great book about stuntmen for TCM books. Anyway, he's great. And I remember doing like a conversation with him about Wes Anderson and about his movies. It was just kind of off the cuff. They just wanted to see how we spoke about filmmakers, about films.
Mhm.
And I remember getting a phone call from the talent people at TCM, and they said, we liked your audition. Here's what we've decided. We're giving Alicia Malone the Filmstruck job, and Dave, we would like to put you on the network. And that's around the time that Robert was ill.
Yeah.
Wow.
So Alicia and I were both thrilled because she got a job that she was excited about. I got a job that I was excited about, and then Filmstruck went under, or ended up they didn't have it last that long, unfortunately. And unfortunately, Robert passed, and that allowed for both Alicia and myself to get the job officially
Wow.
off the channel. So
That's a great story. I love that.
I love that. Well, Dave, one of my favorite segments that you do on TCM is your musical play-by-play. I just love it when you really break down these incredible musical numbers and you talk about the choreography and the music and sort of the behind-the-scenes stories. Where was that idea born from? I love it.
Thank you so much. And I really appreciate that. And I don't know what kind of, if you're like this, people always say, don't read the comments. I read every comment.
We do. We read it. He reads them and he tells me.
Whenever they post a play-by-play, 90% of the comments are super nice and, oh, how great. And then there's always that one person who goes, why is that guy talking over the singer? Just shut up. And because that's a Facebook person who doesn't get what we're doing with these play-by-plays.
Yes.
The clip in its pure form exists on YouTube and you can watch it then, but this is a segment where I am talking over
Yeah.
Thank you, because of course I always focus on that one person who wishes.
I know, we always do that. Too. We do that, yeah.
But to answer your question, so I do this thing called Musical Matinee every Saturday at noon, and I host a musical. And they were one of the producers who does a lot of the social media and kind of extra interstitial content said, what can we do, Dave, to promote these on social media, like when you have a musical matinee, a little special segment. So David Byrne is his name, great guy. He works on a lot of the monthly, like here's what's on TCM for the month of August, those great clip montages that they do. And he works on the TCM Remembers Memorial segment. He's brilliant. So it was his idea. He said, what if we did these segments where you picked your favorite number from whatever the musical matinee is that week, and then he sits with me and I put a little IFB in my ear and I watch it and I do it in one take. And I have I have little notes that I've made for myself, and I study the scene a little bit, the number, but we just do it once. And
that's impressive.
And that's what I like about it. It's not polished. It's just a little bit stream consciousness. And I know the things I want to say and the choreographers and dancers and singers that I want to shout out and little things that I want to say, but I just like to do it kind of off the top of my head once. The great thing about it is that those were meant to be just Twitter and Facebook segments.
Oh.
They responded, I'm so grateful, so kindly to them that now they run on the channel too.
That's great.
Which I love. So that's been a complete happy surprise that shocked me because I thought we were just going to be doing them for Twitter.
Wow,
it's great. Such a great segment. I just love it. Well, your knowledge of musicals is so impressive. Are there like some lesser known musicals that everybody needs to go watch?
Well, the great fun of hosting on TCM is when I get to co-host with people. I love doing the scripted stuff, the teleprompter stuff. That's super fun, and I really enjoy that. But I also, the joy is interviewing people. So I've had Leonard Maltin on, and I've had Michael Feinstein on, and they are crazy encyclopedias.
Yes.
They introduced me to some terrific films. The one that really comes to mind is Reveille with Beverly, with which a lot of people don't know. And for me, as a kid who grew up while all the other boys and girls were playing outside in the woods, I was just sitting at my Mickey Mouse record player listening to my 45 Pointer Sisters and 10cc Pat Benatar. in Reveille with Beverly, as you may know, each scene kind of starts with a record spinning because she's an aspiring DJ. So
Yes.
when I discovered that movie that was Leonard who turned me onto that one. That was one that I'm always trumpeting and and trying to play and talk about as much as I can.
I love that.
Little penny serenade action going on.
Yeah, exactly. It sounds like it.
I've even said as much when
Oh.
I've produced that movie, and I love Penny Sarah. That's one of my favorite.
Me too.
Great Grant movies, and
Me too.
as I told before, I'm a total sap, and I love all that kind of tear-jerky stuff.
Yeah. Well, Dave, since we're kind of in this realm of picking out films on TCM, do you help curate what films are shown? And can you also share with everybody some of the research process that goes into those wonderful facts that you share with us before and after the films?
So by and large, no, I don't have input in what is shown.
Oh.
We have an incredible programming team led by a guy named Charlie Tabish, and he and his team come up with the vast majority of the themes and the way that movies are brought together and put together. Occasionally, they will come to us and there's a guy named Ben Jeeves who helps program Musical Matinee, and he'll come to me occasionally and say, "Hey, we have some holes. What would you want to put here and here?" And
Okay.
Sure.
Was in there. And then super fun, occasionally they'll let us pick. There'll be like a host pick.
Yes.
And I've actually gotten to program Penny Serenade and Children of a Lesser God and some of my favorite movies. And I'll give you a little tidbit. I don't know the films yet, but we're doing something so fun later this year, which is being called TCM Confessions, I think, or Host Confessions. And they're having each of the 5 of us admit that there's a pretty well-known classic movie that we've never seen.
Okay. Oh. We talk about this on our pod because we each have that.
We each have one.
And we are sworn to secrecy.
I'm embarrassed that I haven't seen.
But there's no shame in it. It just means you haven't gotten around to it yet. So they had us all submit a couple of choices.
So fun.
But they said don't watch them yet. Right. Want us to watch it like right before we film, and then they're going to have like Alicia interview me about the movie that I chose, or vice versa.
That's so cool.
So that's going to be, I think, in December. But it's
going
to be great. And I'm sure some of the fans are going to say, "How can you have this job if you haven't seen?"
Yes,
of course.
Yes,
we do. So it'll be fun. And then as far as the scripts, I work with this amazing young writer. Her name is Hannah Jack, and she is a TCM fanatic, and actually got to co-host with Robert Osborne when she was like in her 20s.
Wow.
And then so she became part of the TCM fold at that point. And I work with her, and she kind of helps do a first pass at the scripts, and then I get them. And at that point, I can kind of go through them and add things that I might know, or if there's an actor or actress that I've had a personal experience with, I can add that. Or if there's a little bit of Oscar trivia that didn't make it in that I want to throw in there,
right.
I can. But I am so fortunate to work with this woman, Hannah Jack. She gets my voice, she gets my sensibility. She's wonderful, and she's just a terrific person. She's always on the TCM cruise. She's usually at the festival, so you guys will meet her, I'm sure.
Yeah.
We'd love that.
That's wonderful. Well, one more question before we take a quick break. You touched on this early when we were chatting about Cicely Tyson and people that you got to meet. And throughout your career, I mean, George Clooney, good Lord. Can you share with us 1 or 2 encounters that were those real kind of pinch me moments? And maybe it's already what you've already shared, but were there others that you felt like, oh my gosh, I can't believe I'm speaking to this person?
The biggest one was Elton John, because idolizing Elton John. I'm a classical piano player. My training, did that for 13 years. I'm rusty now, but I was very serious when I was in high school and college. And I did a cover story on him for Entertainment Weekly, and just wanted him to be like nice to me for an hour. Hitting it off. And we maintained a friendship. We talked 3 times a week. He was the first person who agreed to be in my 50 Nights book, which I know we're going to talk about. And it was just this natural thing where this man who I was a little bit scared to meet, and one of the most important figures in my life, and that was 21 years ago.
Wow.
So, wow. Really the moment where I just could not believe that I got to do that.
That's amazing.
That is a pinch me moment
amazing.
for sure.
I think it's time for this week's Hollywood Pop Quiz. Steve?
And the pop quiz question today is, of course, is about our wonderful guest, Dave Karger. Dave was invited by the Academy of Motion Pictures Arts and Sciences to be the official Oscar red carpet greeter in 2012, I believe, which he did for a couple of years. He was only the third person to ever be asked to do that. Who were his two predecessors?
Great question.
Dave knows.
Yeah, don't say anything. I think I know too. We will be right back with the answer and more with the wonderful Dave Karger after this.
Steve and Ann will be right back for this 100th show with their very special guest, TCM's Dave Karger. But first, another stop on the Hollywood tour. All right, April 14th, 1994. Can you guess why that date and time are significant? Well, that's the exact moment of the launch of Turner Classic Movies. That was 31 years ago. The launch was timed to coincide with the 100th anniversary of the first commercial movie screening in the United States. So TCM chose some significant films to begin their run on TV that night. The very first film they aired, no surprise there, the film that many people agree is the single most watched film in American history, Gone with the Wind. That was followed by Singin' in the Rain. Then, It Happened One Night, The Petrified Forest, and coming in at number 5, Cat People. It's quite a list, huh? And now back to Steve, Nan, and Dave from Beneath the Hollywood Sign.
Welcome back, everybody. Before we get further into the life career of Dave Karger and his incredible new book, we want to give a shout out to our listener of the week. And this week we are honoring Michelle Holmes. Michelle has been so supportive of our podcast. She shares, she likes, she gives opinions and suggestions. And Michelle also comes from quite the Hollywood dynasty herself. Her family includes actor Taylor Holmes and actor Philip Holmes and Madeline Taylor Holmes. You may remember Taylor Holmes from Nightmare Alley. He was Ezra, the man who wanted to see his fiancée back from the dead.
And we're hoping to do some sort of episode with Michelle at some point.
About
in
her
the future.
family dynasty.
Yeah. All right. We're shifting gears to talk about this fabulous book. Let me just hold it up here. And I have a signed copy, Dave. So thank you very much. Yes.
Yes. What is this book about? Can you give us a little background on it?
Of course. I wanted to write a book about the Oscars. This is a TCM book. TCM came to me and said, would you be interested in writing a TCM branded book? I said, yeah, but it would have to be about the Oscars. And I own a ton of books about the Oscars and I love them all. But I wanted to do one that was a little bit different, one that came at the subject of the Academy Awards from more of a personal angle, as opposed to the horse race necessarily of it or the winners and losers. So I came up with this idea, this concept, 50 Oscar Nights, where I would do new interviews with 50 Oscar winners from the 1960s through the 2000s and get the stories from them of the day that they won their Oscar. From the moment they woke up to the moment they went to bed, what was that day like? How did they decide what to do, who to go with, what to wear in some cases, how to celebrate, what to say when they won, and what it means to them all these years later and where they keep their Oscar. So I got to interview Rita Moreno, Lee Grant, Mel Brooks, Clint Eastwood, Louis Gossett Jr., Jane Fonda, Sally Field, Julia Roberts, Elton John, Meryl Streep. It was such a joy to put this book together and hear these stories, a lot of which had never been told before. And hopefully cause people to appreciate the Oscars and look at the Oscars in a little bit of a different way.
I have to say the Rita Moreno story about Joan Crawford, I laughed out loud.
Yeah, that was amazing. Yeah.
That's been a favorite of a lot of people. And
Yeah.
whenever I'm asked to read an excerpt of the book at an event, a talk or a signing, that's always the one that
So did you have any hesitation about doing the book with so many Oscar books out there? Was it finding just the right kind of story to tell that hadn't been told before?
Exactly. I knew that because it was a TCM book, it would be well publicized, because that's one thing that's great about TCM. There's a lot of commercials for the TCM book, so that I knew it was going to get to the right people who were interested.
Right.
Yeah, and there are, as we're talking about, there are a lot of Academy Awards books out there, but again, I didn't feel like there was one like this. Luckily, Elton and Nicole Kidman were the two, and Julia Roberts. Those are the three people that I knew pretty well from my years at Entertainment Weekly that all agreed, right when the concept was brand new, to be in it. And that was so helpful because as
Oh,
Yeah.
everyone else wants to know, well, who else is doing it?
exactly.
No one wants to be the first.
No. So I was able to say, if your client is in this book, or if you're in this book, you'll be alongside.
Yeah.
What was your process like? How did you narrow it down to just 50?
Yeah.
Well, because I'd been covering the Oscars at Entertainment Weekly for so long, I knew of a lot of great stories from people like Halle Berry and Hillary, people that I had interviewed over the years. And then obviously I knew about some of the great stories like Jane Fonda getting up there and basically saying, there's a lot to be said, but I'm not going to say it. And Rita Moreno just giving a super short speech. So I wanted to, of course, talk to as many of the classic era film people as possible. There's 6 people in the book who are age 90 or more. So that was very important to me to capture as many of those stories as I could. And then my editor, Cindy Sapala, who's fabulous, she does all of the TCM books. She encouraged me to save 5, 6, 7, 8 slots in the book for people who aren't that well known. So costume designers or sound designers.
Yes.
I love that.
I do too.
Yeah.
And I was like, really? Oh, we don't want just 50 big stars? And she said, no, try it that way. And it was brilliant because my favorite chapter in the whole book is this guy named Kevin O'Connell who lost 20 times before.
Yes.
Yeah, that's a great
the Susan
story.
Lucci of the Oscars.
I read that chapter, and that chapter makes me cry every time I read it. And so I'm so grateful that she encouraged me to include lesser known people.
Yeah. Can you share with us any fun stories about how you tracked down some of the folks? Was it hard to get a hold of? I mean, I'm sure you had a publicist and, reaching out to their agents.
Because we've heard that you did most of the tracking yourself.
Oh, you did?
Oh yeah. I do all the booking myself, we'll talk again in a year because I'm finishing up my second book right now, which I can't tell you much about.
Okay.
Been announced, but I'm doing it all over again.
Okay.
Right. No, I do this myself. People are like, oh, who's your booker? I'm the booker. That's half the battle, is getting the people to agree to do it.
Yes.
The craziest one, Meryl Streep was the one. She was the grail. She was the slipperiest, not because of anything wrong with her. She was eager to do it. She wanted to do it. She was just so busy.
Yes.
Meryl Streep, that I had to wait and extend the deadline for her, and she ended up being so great that I end the book with her because she was for Sophie's Choice, and it was just, the stories were just mind blowing. So that was the one that was the hardest. And then there's this amazing woman who works at TCM named Dory Stegman. She's in the talent department of TCM, and people call her the Mel Brooks whisperer because she's worked with Mel Brooks so many times because of TCM that they love each other. And he was someone I had never interacted with. So I said, Dory, can you help me? And 2 days later, I was on Zoom with Mel Brooks because of her. So 46, 47 of the 50 people I got myself, but I needed a little bit of TCM magic fairy dust help for the other 2.
That's fabulous.
Well, I know you mentioned that you wanted to get Barbara Streisand, but you couldn't because she was doing her own book. Are there others that you really wanted but couldn't get?
Yeah, I really would have wanted Julie Andrews in the book. I also tried to get Eva Marie Saint.
Yes.
And I was told that the 2 of them simply aren't doing interviews that much these days.
Yeah.
So that was disappointing. And then, Barbara Streisand, I really would have loved to have heard from her, but you never know. There might be a sequel to this book.
Okay.
We were going to ask you that.
Tease. We love that tease.
I know, because I would want to hear about what's it like to tie for an Oscar.
Yeah.
Thank you. That's what I want to know.
Yeah,
Barbara.
that would be. Yeah.
And
I'm not giving up.
Yeah. There certainly are common themes as we both read the book and as people in the entertainment industry that we felt. What was the common theme as you were putting together all these wonderful stories? What was the common theme that popped up for you?
2 things. One less interesting, one more interesting. The less interesting one is how important and how serious everyone considers winning. They all get that. They all understood that this is monumental and they're a part of history. Okay, great. But the thing that really surprised me was how every story is different and how many people for whom the day of the Oscar win isn't necessarily all positive.
Yes.
You're winning an Oscar. Everything in your life must be just perfect. And there are chapters like that. Octavia Spencer, John Legend, Julia Roberts, where it was this magical moment where everything was great.
Yeah.
Just as many, if not more, Marlee Matlin, Nicole Kidman, Jane Fonda, Dustin,
Yeah.
where they're really Mira Sorvino,
Yes.
Yeah.
Big time.
in Woody Allen movie,
Yeah.
Yeah.
where they're very conflicted about the win, and even talking about it brings up feelings of guilt, insecurity, sadness.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Go with the euphoria of winning the Oscar. So that's one thing that, as I was doing the book and very early on in the process, because Nicole was one of the first interviews I did, and her chapter
Wow.
the most attention
Yeah.
because of what she talks about with what was going on in her personal life.
Yeah.
I thought to myself, whoa, this book is going to be a little bit different from what I
Yeah.
necessarily thought it was, but in a really good way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, one thing that struck me was the story that Hilary Swank tells about after winning her first one for Boys Don't Cry. And she went to get some medicine at the pharmacy and realized that she didn't have health insurance. She had an Oscar, but she didn't have health insurance. So I always think about, there's so many misconceptions, I think, about what their lives are like when they win an Oscar. But I love that you bring all this to the forefront, that it's not always, glittery and glitz and wonderful.
It's not, and we should explain to people it's because she only made like $3,000 for the
Yeah.
so she hadn't reached the minimum SAG-AFTRA income to qualify for SAG insurance.
Yeah, that was very powerful to me. I also love that Emma Thompson, I think, talks about keeping her Oscar in the loo so that guests can come in there in the privacy of a bathroom and like do their Oscar speech and get in front of the mirror, do a selfie. I love that. Where were some of the other interesting places that people keep their Oscars?
Well, that was a question that I came upon really early in the process. I was like, if I'm going to do this book, one thing I have to ask them all is where they keep it. And the other answer that I really liked, Halle Berry's answer, I liked, she keeps hers upstairs in her bedroom.
Yeah.
To her, it's a very private thing. She doesn't want it out in the open. It's something that she sees when she gets up or when she goes to bed. Meryl Streep said she keeps hers like on a high shelf so that the grandkids can't reach them. And but the Emma Thompson one, I mean, can you imagine just like going to
Yes, and there's her Oscar. Well, it struck me too how many people were embarrassed to display it. Like they kept it in boxes and cartons and on the shelf in a closet. That really surprised me.
Yeah.
Hello, if I had an Oscar, I'd be carrying it with me everywhere I want.
Oh, I'd wear it on a chain,
Dustin Hoffman said it wasn't until like after years of therapy that he was able to display his. Rita Moreno had hers, and as you said, in a cardboard box, and it wasn't until her new husband said, "What are you doing? You earned it."
I know, you earned it. Exactly.
Yeah.
See, it's crazy.
Well, that brings up, were there other rituals that you learned of, like Cameron Crowe sleeping with his Oscar under his pillow
because Steven Spielberg told him to. I love that story.
Are there other strange things that came up in these conversations?
I'll tell you the little story behind the Cameron Crowe thing. So that was in the year 2001, because the Almost Famous came out in 2000. And I was a writer at Entertainment Weekly, and I was there at the DreamWorks after party.
Oh, wow.
And I was supposed to get little tidbits of information for our story. And I knew Cameron Crowe a little bit, and I saw Cameron Crowe and Steven Spielberg talking very closely at the party. And I went up to Cameron Crowe and I said, Cameron, I have to know, like, what did Steven Spielberg just say to you? And he said, Dave, I just don't think it's right for me to tell you. I think it was, I don't want to betray him. It's like a private moment. I'm so sorry. I said, no problem. I get it. So I went over to Steven Spielberg. Hey, what did you just say to Cameron Crowe? He said, I told him to sleep with the Oscar under his pillow.
That's so
being the good journalist that you are.
So that ended up getting printed in Entertainment Weekly 24 years ago. I got to kind of relive that whole experience and ask him about it. And he was much more willing to discuss it. But other rituals, I don't know. I mean, a lot of people just wanted to have like quiet family time and let that afternoon be a safe space before they kind of enter into the gauntlet of the red carpet and the Oscars. So I think for a lot of people, I think Julie Roberts or Octavia Spencer, they just said or Emma Thompson, it was time for them to kind of be quiet and be the vibe, chill out a little bit before the insanity of that.
Yeah. One of the stories that you talk about in the book is the Olivia Colman story where Emma Stone and Rachel Weisz who have already won, insist that she be in the category of Best Actress, which was such a wonderful thing.
So generous, so
Yeah.
amazing. Yeah.
Are there other stories like that, Dave, that pop up of that kind of moment of gratitude of people, stepping aside for someone?
I love that story, and I speak about that Olivia Colman speech a lot when I do presentations about this book, and I always tear up when I talk about that.
Yeah.
A lot of other cases, it was the other way. Remember with Sally Field, where she talked about how her boyfriend Burt Reynolds was completely
Yes.
Yes.
Awful. Yeah.
And when Norma Ray was accepted to the Cannes Film Festival, and she told him she was going, he said, "Well, you don't think you're going to win anything, do you?"
Yeah.
And she ended up not only winning Best Actress at Cannes, but winning every single
Everything.
prize.
Well, and you touched on Marlee Matlin in the limousine
And
with
William
William
Hurt.
Hurt. I mean,
Awful.
heartbreaking.
Well, I'll tell you real quick. I hesitated to even ask Marlee Matlin to be in this book because that movie, Children of a Lesser God, is one of my 3, 4, 5 favorite of all time.
Mhm.
And I almost didn't want to spoil it.
Yeah.
In my mind,
Yeah.
but
I get that.
I knew a little bit about that story and the turmoil of their relationship. Also, I wasn't sure if Marlee Matlin herself was going to want to relive that and talk about it. Well, I
Sure.
will tell you what, she was the fastest yes that I
Oh.
got of any of the 50 people.
Wow.
And she was so eager and happy to talk about it that I'm so glad I asked her. But yeah, that story is brutal.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it is.
Dave, I've heard in the press, like Marcia Gay Harden has talked about the Oscar curse, where people win an Oscar, then their career goes immediately into decline. Were there other people that alluded to this so-called curse? And what do you think about the Oscar curse? Is there a curse?
I don't think there's a curse, but it doesn't magically mean that you're going to start getting tons of scripts. Halle Berry talks about this, where she kind of felt like, oh, I won the Oscar. Now the script truck is going to back up to my house and drop all the scripts. But the fact of the matter is, it didn't magically mean that the powers that be all of a sudden wanted to produce movies starring a Black woman. It just wasn't what they were thinking, which is horrible and sad. So, I do think it happens occasionally where someone gets this amazing role.
Yeah.
It elevates them, and then the industry doesn't really have a place to put them.
Right.
And I think that's really unfortunate. But I love the Marcia Gay story because that was a true shocking win.
Yeah, it really, she wasn't on anyone's radar.
No. She wasn't nominated for any other award, not even nominated for the BAFTA, the Screen Actors World, the Globe, nothing. Yeah. And then she won. So there's so few of those truly shocking. That's why I put her in the book, because that was a truly surprising win.
Yeah. You touched on tearing up, in retelling some of these stories. And I found the book to be so emotional. I mean, in a joyful way where I would be tearing up over the adversity that someone overcame to get to where they are. And then also the stories that we've just mentioned, such painful memories of it. So it's a really emotional book. Was there a story, and maybe you've already mentioned it, that was the most emotional for you?
Yes, and I have not mentioned it yet. The one where the interview subject really broke down was this lovely, lovely guy named Jeffrey Fletcher, and he's the screenwriter of the movie Precious, and he's the first Black winner of a screenplay Oscar. And the story of his parents growing up, I think in North Carolina or somewhere in there, where they had to sit, if they wanted to watch a movie in a theater, they had to sit in the segregated balcony section. And for him to then have his mom sitting next to him at the Academy Awards in the main area, and see her son win after that. And he told me the story, this is in the book, that his parents never really told him about that, what they had to do when they were kids, because they didn't want to discourage him from following his dream of being in the movie business. And it wasn't later that they even told him that's what they had to do when they watched movies as young people. And I just thought that was a beautiful story, but Jeffrey got very emotional.
Yeah.
In a book form, that doesn't really come through, because I'm not going to put in brackets,
he
Jeffrey
cried.
But he did. And it was really beautiful. And I'm happy that he told that story, and really it added so much to the book.
Well, and clearly you didn't need to put in brackets that he cried, because your writing and their sharing, that combination just makes it, you really feel like you're chatting with them. There was one story, and we talked a little bit about Meryl Streep. I mean, the goddess.
The goddess.
Her story about winning the Oscar for Sophie's Choice and then getting into her car or about to get into her car and the producer saying a very bad word to her. Were there others?
Because she forgot to thank him.
Yeah, because she forgot to thank him, which in that moment, of course, she forgot to thank somebody. I mean, you can't possibly thank everyone. That was the most surprising story to me. Behind the scenes, a behind the scenes thing. What were the ones that struck you? And if you can share those.
Well, Meryl had another one. If you remember, she's sitting in the audience and they've already given away the Best Supporting Actress award that year to Jessica Lange for Tootsie. And Jessica Lange was also nominated for Best Actress that year.
That's right.
Up against Meryl Streep. And I think she was sitting in front of James Mason and his wife, and she heard James Mason's wife say, "Wouldn't it be cool if Jessica Lange wins both?"
I do remember that.
That was enough.
Shut up.
and I can hear you. I can hear you.
I'm right here.
Oh my gosh.
It just shows you that just because you're Meryl Streep doesn't mean you're immune to hearing.
Right.
Exactly.
You think you are, but yeah, you're right.
Yeah.
You're right.
Have you gotten feedback from your subjects? Do they like the book? Has anybody had any suggestions? Because everyone loves to give suggestions.
Can I tell you, it's been so lovely. I got flowers from Marlee Matlin and Octavia Spencer. Steven Spielberg sent me a picture of himself holding the book.
Oh my gosh.
Holding it up. And then I've had people like Jennifer Hudson posted about it and posted this video of herself flipping through it. And there's been so much positivity, and not a single person had anything that they weren't happy about or wish that I had done differently. Nothing.
Awesome.
And I'm so grateful to all 50 of them for giving me their time and their trust.
Yeah. One of the things we centered on a previous episode in our podcast are some of the more famous speeches that people gave at the Oscars, or our favorites anyway. What are some of your favorites?
Well, the Halle Berry speech is the gold standard.
Iconic.
The first half of it. Before she starts kind of rambling and thanking her lawyer twice or whatever.
Right.
She kind of chastises herself for it. That's the perfect combination of emotion, but then working through that emotion and delivering a speech that has real meaning without reading off a piece of paper.
Yes.
And just being truly, truly memorable. To me, nothing really holds up to that. And then as far as one that's just like A+, presented perfectly, it's the John Legend and Common winning for Best Song.
Yes.
And just on point, perfectly delivered, great message. Of course, they were going to win, and everyone knew it, so they were able to really think about, and John Legend just paced all day trying to memorize it and making sure that he didn't make any mistakes.
Yeah. That's great.
Another thing we talk about a lot on our podcast are the people who don't have an Oscar that should. We constantly go off about Myrna Loy and Irene Dunn and Barbara Stanwyck.
Shame on the Academy. Shame on the Academy.
Cary Grant, Alfred Hitchcock. Who are some of the people that surprises you the most who don't have an Oscar?
Edward Norton, Laura Linney, Saoirse Ronan.
Yes.
Richard Gere, never nominated.
Yeah.
Kevin Bacon, never nominated. I would say those.
Yeah, surprising.
Bradley Cooper, come on.
Yeah.
He should have won for Best Actor for Stars Born.
Yeah.
Oh, totally. Well, this book, of course, is primed for a sequel, which maybe that's what you're working on. You can't tell us about. But if there is a sequel, who is your must-have list?
Barbara and Cher.
Oh, yes.
Nice.
You must.
Kenneth Branagh, who I love.
Oh, yeah.
That's
great.
Oh, good choices. Good choices.
Dave, we could talk to you all afternoon, but I know you have to go.
Yes, you do.
And we need to give the answer to this week's Hollywood Pop Quiz. So let's do that first.
And the pop quiz question, of course, was, in 2012, Dave was asked to be the official Oscar red carpet greeter by the Academy. Who were his predecessors? And Dave, would you like to answer this for us?
Of course. And what an honor. Army Archerd, who did it for decades, was the first. And Robert Osborne was the second. I got to succeed Robert Osborne and to be in that list of people. And now it's Chris Connolly, who is also great.
Yes.
So in that list of people, true honor.
That's wonderful. Well, Dave, it's been an absolute pleasure. Thank you so much for spending this time with us. And we want to encourage all our listeners, please get this book. You will laugh, you will cry. And I don't mean that as a cliche. It is truly a spectacular book. And it's beautiful too. The photographs are stunning. So
congratulations on your 100th episode.
Oh, thank you. Thanks for being a part of it.
And to our listeners, thank you for spending this time with us. We would love it if wherever you listen to this podcast, you'd give us a 5-star review. And also you can watch us on YouTube and give us a thumbs up and a subscribe. Our handle on social media is @From Beneath the Hollywood Sign.
And we love your emails. Keep them coming. You can email us at info@FromBeneathTheHollywoodSign.com.
That's this week's view.
From Beneath the Hollywood Sign.
You've been listening to From Beneath the Hollywood Sign with Steve Cubine and Ann McNamara, the podcast that celebrates amazing stories of Tinseltown from its golden era. Join us next week for another episode and learn something else about Hollywood you probably never knew. Take a moment and give us a 5-star rating and a positive review, and tell your friends about us too. It'll help grow the podcast. Visit Steve's website at FromBeneathTheHollywoodSign.com. The executive producers are Steve Cubine and Nan McNamara. Executive producer and post-production supervisor Lindsay Schnebley. Associate producer and researcher John Price Ritchie. This podcast is part of the Airwave Media Podcast Network. Visit airwavemedia.com to listen and subscribe to their other fine shows like The Box of Oddities and The Shallow End with Schnebley and Toth. Copyright 2025, all rights reserved. That's a wrap.